The country's richest sporting code is built on the courage and sacrifice of its players. But it comes at a cost. Brain injuries caused by hit after hit after hit. There is a myth that the condition known as CTE only affects older, retired players.
Eagles by 7.
But the brain disease is claiming modern-day heroes.
He just used to say, "I think I've got CTE." Yeah, he knew.
And striking down the young.
To hear your son say, "Mum, what's wrong with me?" And he wanted to be well. He did everything to be well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Now we can reveal startling new evidence of the AFL's brain trauma crisis. We're aware of multiple cases of CTE diagnosed in Australian rules players. We're talking players in their 20s, 30s, 40s.
What we've learnt is that repeated head trauma is incredibly undesirable.
Let's get around each other, let's go.
And allegations that AFL has failed to protect its players.
1, 2, 3.
CTE is a preventable environmental disease. We could have saved lives with this. The AFL does have blood on its hands.
We interrogate the AFL's record of keeping parents, players and fans in the dark.
Our job is not to communicate every single aspect of risk that exists in our game. It's a shared responsibility.
Stop evading and denying this degenerative disease and do something about it.
Here's Loudon. Good to see him back from the back injury. Here's Loudon that does so. Found some space, left-footed kick.
I know he's my son, but he was a natural.
Snap around the body. It's a beautiful goal off the boot of Nick Loudon.
He played in the under-10s through to the under-14s. And Nick won 5 Best and Fairest awards in a row.
From the beginning, Nick Loudon had a reputation as a team player.
He was just so happy playing and doing what he loved, wasn't he?
Yeah.
By 16, Nick's dream to play in the AFL was getting closer to reality.
He asking me, "Do you think I'm good enough, Dad?" And I said, "Of course you are."
It was right here that Kerry and Tony were watching Nick play on a cold winter's afternoon in August 2017. In the last quarter, then 17-year-old Nick was badly concussed.
He went up for a mark and it looks like he's had his legs taken out from underneath him, and then he's just come down, hit his head on the ground. You could tell he was out for a couple of seconds.
Against the AFL's own junior footy concussion protocols, Nick was sent back out to play.
I think I said to you, Nick's back on. He played, but he didn't really have any impact on the game. When we went in after they won, you could see his eyes were rolling. I thought, he's not even here with us.
In the club rooms after the game, Kerry and Tony could see their son looking up to the wall where the team song was written.
You can see he's not with it. He didn't know the words and he's looking for the words.
Nick's concussion came after a decade playing the game and absorbing repeated hits.
We noticed over the next 12 months he started to deteriorate, and he was a healthy, strapping young man, and he'd keep getting flu-like symptoms.
Sensitivity to light.
Sensitivity to light, mood changes, depression, which was absolutely horrendous for a young man. that he had so much going for him to have depression. We couldn't understand it. He was also a little bit quick to anger, frustrated, and then the self-doubt. And we were like, what's this? We would say to him, Nick, you've got everything going for you.
Nick said medication and psychologists weren't lifting him out of his depression.
He said, Mum, they're not working. He said, why am I like this? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with my brain?
Despite his struggles, by 2022, Nick was playing in the South Australian National Football League for Norwood. He won a premiership with them.
Just seeing the smile on his face and the happiness. And then you started to think, well, maybe there is a chance.
Nick played on with Norwood in 2023, but he was still struggling, and he called his parents for support.
He was sliding quickly.
He was sliding, and he made both of us cry, and he was crying himself when he was on the phone.
He said, Mum, I'm 23 and what have I achieved? I hoped when we talked to him we could, empower him and keep him going and push him on.
Weeks later, after Nick hadn't returned their calls, Kerry and Tony rushed home to check on him.
Couldn't wait to get in to see him. I'm yelling out as I thought he might have been upstairs, and I was calling out, Nick, and there was no answer. And then when I walked back past the window, I looked out and I saw him, and I just thought, oh my God. And I screamed and screamed, but he was gone, and we'll never unsee that.
After Nick's death, the Loudons received a call from the coroner's office asking if they would consider donating Nick's brain for research.
Our rationale was, the girls and I said to Tone, well, maybe they can study a depressed brain, because we just thought Nick had a depressed brain.
They were shocked to learn that Nick had been suffering from a degenerative brain disease called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. And the most likely cause? 16 years playing footy.
I just can't believe that we didn't know about it, and that the general public don't know about it.
So you did not know what CTE was?
No.
Nick Loudon is the youngest Australian rules footballer to be diagnosed with CTE.
That beast had the power to push him to that point that he would never have done if his brain was normal. If it wasn't affected by CTE, he would never have done that. And now it's too late. He's gone, and all the things that we'll miss. We won't see him marry or have children. He's not going to see his beautiful nephew who's named after him. All that taken away from him and taken away from us. And that's why something has to change.
The AFL is not just a sport. It's $1 billion industry with a plan to grow to 1 million players by 2033.
That is wow.
The stars of the show are adored heroes. Their athleticism is staggering. And they're the centrepiece of a game that is faster and harder than it's ever been. Repetitive trauma to the head and body is the only known cause of CTE. The disease has been found in people who've served in the military and those who've experienced epileptic seizures and domestic violence. But it's mainly been found in footy players.
What drives CTE risk is exposure to repeated head impacts. Most of those won't give you any signs or symptoms. They'll just be part of the rough and tumble of the game. But each of one of those is doing microscopic damage, which in most people is fine, because you only get hit in the head maybe a dozen or 2 dozen times in a normal person's life. But if you play a lot of contact sport, you're being exposed to thousands, if not tens of thousands of these impacts. And it's that cumulative exposure that drives risk of developing CTE.
CTE can only be diagnosed after death. Associate Professor Michael Buckland has looked at more than 150 athletes' brains.
I set up the brain bank to be able to allow families to have an option to donate their loved one's brain after death to get an answer about what sort of disease was affecting them in life.
What is CTE?
CTE is a degenerative brain disease, just like Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease or even motor neuron disease. It's got a very distinct appearance under the microscope.
Let's go to the lab. Yeah. So in here we do all the brain examinations.
Okay. Wow. So this is where it all happens.
CTE occurs when deposits of an abnormal protein called tau builds up in nerve cells in the brain, causing them to malfunction and eventually die. Commonly reported symptoms in CTE include problems with mood, memory, and impulse control. It was Michael Buckland who found CTE in Nick Loudon's brain.
Can you remember your early conversations with Kerry and Tony Loudon and conveying the diagnosis to them?
It's uniquely hard talking to families. Yeah. Let's move on. As you said, Nick was only 23 years old. So when I look in the frontal cortex of a 23-year-old, I would expect to see no deposition of tau. And in this case, I didn't have to look that hard to find the CTE lesion.
Until now, we've known of 5 AFL players to be diagnosed with CTE. Michael Buckland has examined the brains of 60 Australian rules players. He has startling new figures showing the number of CTE cases is in fact 6 times higher at 33. That includes 19 professional and semi-professional players and 14 amateurs.
I think it tells all of us that there's a problem, that playing a lot of contact or collision sport leads you to have risk of CTE later in life. And it's a problem that needs to be urgently addressed.
19 of the Australian rules brain donors died by suicide. 15 had CTE, 4 did not.
We don't really understand, we don't really have enough data to draw a sort of a causal link between the two, but it's a disturbing association which I think needs more investigation.
Yeah, so this is one of the hits I got at the MCG. Got a handball over the top and just front.
Yeah.
And you see my hand up, it was like pretty well knocked out. And then obviously, ended up coming back on in the last quarter. It's just crazy.
I mean, what goes through your mind now when you watch that?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't come back on, but yeah, it's hard to watch, definitely, because I felt every bit of that one.
Concussion is the second most common injury in the AFL, but concussions are just one factor. It's the head hits that don't show symptoms that mainly cause CTE.
CTE and other neurodegenerative diseases like motor neuron disease and dementias is due to what we call subconcussive impacts. Now, these are things like bumps, tackles, being thrown to the ground, getting back up, running on with no apparent signs or symptoms.
Former Western Bulldogs player Matty Robbins still feels the effects of the impacts today.
Anyone that plays AFL is courageous. Anyone that keeps their eye on the ball is someone that is super courageous, and they're the ones that pay the price, I reckon.
Matty played 11 seasons of AFL, 146 games, and copped some huge hits. 2 decades after retiring from the professional game, he says he's suffering.
Oh, I'm paying the price, and no one walks away unscathed. From the age of probably 42, I was starting to deal with memory loss and stuff.
Today, Matty is 49. He knows several fellow players now suffering dementia, and he's scared about what might lie ahead.
That's my biggest fear, that I'll develop dementia.
Can I ask you what conversations you've had with your wife about the future?
I don't want to go through dementia. I won't put my kids through that. So we've got to come up with a solution, but I don't know what that's going to be, but I won't put my kids through that. I won't ever do that.
You're saying you don't want to leave?
Yeah. Ollie's playing 100 games today. Is it gentleman Ollie? We know what Ollie gives, don't he? Effort.
Matty Robbins believes he has CTE.
I've got all the symptoms. I've clearly got this.
Despite his fears, he still loves the game and coaches his local under-16 team.
Okay, so through my time, boys, milestone games are the most important games, and you want to be able to look the bloke in the eye when you come off the field.
He's donating his brain to the Australian Sports Brain Bank.
It's more just for education, to learn more about it. That's what I can do, and pass on something, and then I'll do it.
Matty Robbins recently applied for an AFL severe injury benefit payment. It's a lump sum of up to $600,000 for former players left severely injured by the game.
Deeper.
Despite a scan showing significant brain damage, he failed the criteria for compensation, which requires players to prove their capacity to work is reduced by 40% or more.
They just think you're chasing cash. It's like, mate, I'm financially stable. I don't owe any debts. I haven't got anything like that. So it's not money for me. It's to set my family up. Make sure that once it fucking turns pear-shaped, when I get fucking dementia, that my family are looked after. That's why I'm doing it. No other reason.
I think anyone can try and do the math on the accumulation of force impact that the brain is sustaining.
Alan Pearce is a neuroscientist who has been researching AFL players' brains, including Matty Robbins, for nearly 2 decades. He says their heads are subjected to extraordinary forces.
We get large impacts of well over 100 Gs in hits that can be obviously causing concussions, but even worse, like brain bleeds, more serious traumatic injuries to the neck. And yeah, they're rarer, but they're real and they happen.
The AFL has built much of its response to player safety around concussion. But Alan Pearce says CTE is not simply a concussion issue.
The concussion protocols do not protect against CTE. These are the small impacts that come into the tens of thousands over a player's career from when they start through to when they retire.
These impacts have been well established in the United States for years.
We're here today because a lot of people are paying attention to the issue of concussions.
In 2013, a class action was settled by the NFL, which has now paid out over $2 billion Australian dollars. And in 2016, the league made a bombshell admission.
Do you think there is a link between football and degenerative brain disorders like CTE?
The answer to that question is certainly yes.
Boston University's Dr. Anne McKee is considered one of the world-leading experts in CTE.
Well, CTE is rare in the general population, but it is not rare if you've experienced repetitive hits to the head. In fact, in our brain bank, which, we include cases that have had exposure to hits to the head, we see it quite commonly in about 60 to 70% of the cases that come in.
If you consider NFL brain donors alone, it's even higher. More than 500 ex-players have been found to have CTE, over 90% of those who donated their brains.
We must do something about it as urgently as possible in order to protect our future athletes.
Can you all hear me? Good.
In 2016, when the NFL was admitting a link between football and CTE, the AFL was playing it down, advised by Dr. Paul McCrory.
NFL football, for all the carry-on and hoo-ha you hear from the United States, it actually has the lowest rates of concussion of any of these sports, right down the bottom.
At the time, Dr. McCrory was very influential. He was advising major bodies like FIFA and the International Olympic Committee.
The feared CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, that you've heard about, the best guess from the group that is pushing this most strongly says the risk is about 4% of retired athletes get it. The other way of looking at it is that 96% of athletes do not get it.
In this 2016 Melbourne University lecture, which has been removed from public view, Dr. McCrory challenged the science and targeted the Boston researchers who'd helped expose the NFL's brain injury crisis.
The biggest group in the world pushing this area is the Boston University group, led by Anne McKee and Bob Cantu. And they've presented 64 athletes with so-called CTE.
It's always amazed me that individuals like Paul McCrory, but there have been many others who have no experience in neuropathology, weigh in on the work. The sports leagues are well financed. There's a potential financial benefit of pretending that these sports don't have risks. But I think the scientific data is incontrovertible.
In 2022, Paul McCrory's career ended in disgrace after he was found to have plagiarised multiple articles and misquoted crucial findings about when players should cease playing contact sport. The British Journal of Sports Medicine suggested he'd warped the concussion narrative and said his actions were an offence against science.
The football community has been shocked by the sudden death of St Kilda legend Danny Frawley.
The death of the beloved Danny Frawley in 2019 triggered a coronial investigation that shone a light on CTE. A key recommendation was the AFL should actively encourage brain donation to the Australian Sports Brain Bank.
Former Richmond AFL player Shane Tuck has died aged 38.
In 2023, another coronial inquest was held which dealt with CTE. This one was into the death of Richmond player Shane Tuck. The coroner looking at Tuck's death reinforced the importance of the AFL partnering with a brain bank. 5 years after it was first recommended, the AFL is yet to make it happen. Anita Frawley, Danny's widow, released a statement to Four Corners.
Why has it taken so long to deliver something the coroner recommended years ago? And why is the football community still without a clear, nationally recognised pathway to support vital brain research? This is not about blame. It's about leadership, accountability, and player welfare. The football community deserves answers. More importantly, players past, present and future deserve action.
We asked the AFL CEO Andrew Dillon to be interviewed for this story. He declined. Instead, the AFL put forward Laura Kane, the executive whose brief includes player health and concussion. It's been 5 years. That's a long time. Why is there a delay?
We're committed to a long-term study that includes brain donation, and we will make sure that we deliver that research program with the overlay of brain donation if our players want to, in the safest way possible. And that's all being contemplated right now as part of our brain health initiative.
In 2023, the coroner also recommended that AFL reduce players' exposure to high-impact hits by limiting physical contact in training sessions.
So right now we are considering and are likely to implement contact training limits.
When might that happen?
Imminently.
Next season or
ahead of next season?
So I declare open this hearing of the Senate Community Affairs References Committee's inquiry into concussions and repeated head trauma in contact sports.
The AFL acknowledged a link between head trauma and CTE at a 2023 Senate inquiry.
Senator, we did. In our submission, we set out the position that we acknowledge there is an association between head trauma and neurodegenerative disease, including CTE.
Do you have a policy on CTE, given you acknowledge the links?
In terms of a specific policy that deals with non-concussive head trauma or CTE, no, we do not.
Do you think you should have one?
I don't think that we need to have a policy to show how seriously we take CTE in our sport.
The AFL doesn't have an official policy on CTE, but says it does inform players.
So every year our Chief Medical Officer will educate our players on everything from the reporting of symptoms, the management of concussions, the long-term risks, and there's education and training that's conducted annually.
Adam, from a very, very early age, was going to play football. And when his teachers asked him to do homework, I don't need to because I'm going to play AFL. And he was going to play for the Eagles.
Adam Hunter was a country boy who loved fishing and footy. His greatest dream came true when he was drafted to the West Coast Eagles in 1999, and he gave it his all.
It was just 110% dedication. Full on, just eat the right food, train, sleep, recover. Train, sleep, eat, recover. Never wanted to be in the spotlight either. He just wanted to be a no-name backman.
Adam's commitment to the game would cement him in a now iconic West Coast Eagles team. During the 2006 Premiership, he had a starring role. Adam Hunter was a fearless player. He put his body on the line. Earlier in 2006, he suffered a horrendous collision when his head hit the interchange bench.
Close to the line. Adam said to us when he got home that if it had been an inch one way, it would have been fatal.
He came back on and played out the game. In the final year of his AFL career, Adam started to unravel.
Probably the last year he played, and then through retirement his personality changed. Addictions started coming in.
He later started to express to his mum Joanne and his stepdad Rod that something was wrong with his brain.
He just used to say, I think I've got it.
I don't feel right. I don't feel right.
Yeah.
I know there's something wrong.
Yeah,
I
think I've got CTE, because I didn't know a lot about CTE. I knew it was from head trauma, but I didn't know that Yeah, just looking back now and knowing a bit more about CTE, yeah, he knew.
Adam Hunter started turning more and more to drugs in his final years.
I know he tried a lot of different drugs. And I think they just try for something that's going to make them feel better.
Adam overdosed and died in February last year.
The West Coast Eagles have paid tribute to 2006 Premiership player Adam Hunter, who died overnight at his Bunbury home.
It still doesn't seem real.
Yeah, I know. You'd be lying if you said you didn't think about it 10 times a day.
His parents donated his brain, and Adam's suspicion that he had CTE was confirmed.
How does it feel knowing that Adam was battling a degenerative brain disease?
As a parent, it was soul-destroying. It just hits a real nerve. You just can't describe it, how painful it is.
Michael Buckland believes Adam and other players with CTE who struggled with addiction have been unfairly treated.
There can be a bit of a culture of victim blaming, but there is no evidence that drugs and alcohol cause CTE. In fact, there is evidence of the opposite, and I'm just a bit stumped why sports-associated doctors continue to trot out that, what to me seems like an excuse. It's their fault they've got it. It's always someone else's fault. It's not the code's fault.
Have you heard from the AFL since he was found to have CTE?
No.
No.
What does that say to you?
The Players Association have been amazing.
Yeah.
With support. But the AFL itself has given us nothing. Like, we're not asking for anything. So...
Yeah. I think it's just denial.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about Adam Hunter's diagnosis. Why has no one from the AFL executive reached out to his family?
Firstly, again, it's really sad. These stories are really sad and they're hard and they're complex. I can't talk to the communication that my individual colleagues have, but my AFL colleagues, but what I do know is that our players are so well supported by their clubs, and the relationship that the clubs build with these players and their families is strong. We're the governing body. We're always, available to talk to people when they're ready. We're available to answer questions.
Women and girls are central to the AFL's future. They're the key to the AFL's goal of growing its player base to 1 million people. Heather Anderson played in the first AFLW season and won a premiership with the Adelaide Crows. And she suffered hits. Heather's death by suicide in 2022 caused shockwaves through the women's game. She was just 28.
I was lucky enough to be able to speak to her family, who were incredibly supportive about brain donation.
Heather is the first known female professional athlete in the world to be diagnosed with CTE.
Heather is the canary in the coal mine. We are seeing the explosion of popularity of contact sports in the female sphere. We know that there is literature about women maybe more prone to concussions, And so the nightmare scenario is that, in fact, they're also more prone to CTE.
The AFL has long maintained the safety of its players is its top priority, pointing to the introduction of 30 new rule changes over the past decade to protect the brain health of players. 3 years ago, it announced a new $25 million project. Laura Kane says that's on track.
The Brain Health Initiative is a longitudinal research study that we launched. We had 2 clubs go through the pilot program of the Brain Health Initiative. So from a research perspective, the Brain Health Initiative is where we house both research but also innovation. And so innovation with equipment, whether it be mouth guards, which feature as part of the Brain Health Initiative, of course, brain scans and other medical overlay that we can apply through the research, all the way through to protective equipment and learning here at the AFL about what the options are to help us reduce head trauma.
While the football community waits for any results to emerge from the Brain Health Initiative, the league will be under pressure to preserve the game that's such a huge part of Australian culture. Some experts suggest lifting the tackling age from 9 to 14. Dr. McKee believes the game should go further.
I know people say 14, but there's nothing magical about 14. I'd like it to be raised to 18 or even higher when a person is able to give their own consent for playing the sport and enduring the risks. There are risks to getting your head hit, risks to these sports, and I would like a player to be fully informed about the potential risks before they engage in it.
Reducing players' exposure to hits could include limiting contact training, officially monitoring all impacts, and reducing the length of the season. But the AFL is considering extending the season. The Players Association says it needs more time to consider it.
I think one of the things to consider is if we were to have more games, how long are those games? How long is the training that sits around it and the pre-season training that sits around it? So I think it's about looking at the cumulative load across the course of 12 months or a player's career. At this stage, it's something that we know is a possible topic of discussion that the AFL would like to have with us. It's not something we have a formed position on yet, and we're currently discussing with our members.
Dr. Anne McKee and her colleagues have been working on the Holy Grail, finding a way to diagnose CTE in life.
I expect to be able to diagnose CTE during life within the next 3 years.
What would it mean to that person who's suffering CTE and their understanding of their symptoms?
I think diagnosis during life will be revolutionary. To understand that there is a disease, a brain injury that is causing these symptoms, it's not them, it's not their weakness, their inability to stave off small complaints. It's not them, it's actually a disease, and they are coping with it. And that realization is extraordinary for patients.
Kerry and Tony Loudon believe the AFL is choosing to protect its billion-dollar brand.
They're putting money before people. It has to stop.
Four Corners raised Nick Loudon's death with Laura Kane, and that his mum, Kerry, had been unaware of what CTE was.
Those stories are incredibly sad. They're sad for anyone who's close to those people. The story you just described is someone's son. It's really hard. What it tells me is that we all need to learn, and there's more to learn about CTE and understanding again the link between contact sports and CTE. But our job is not to communicate the research findings of others necessarily. Our job is not to communicate every single aspect of risk that exists in our game. Our job is to govern our sport, and it's a shared responsibility, and it's a responsibility shared by everyone who works in contact sport.
When do you hope to... Can you speak to what she said about risk?
Risk is their responsibility, 100%. The risks involved in that game is 100% their responsibility. So I'm absolutely gobsmacked that she's saying that they will act when they have the right findings, and saying that risk isn't their responsibility. Of course it is. Unless someone knows what the dangers are, they can't protect themselves. Like our son didn't know. We didn't know.
In the days after Nick Loudon died, his family found his journals.
This one sums things up. This one he called angst. What is this unease that I feel? I'm dying slowly. How much longer can I keep this facade up? How much fuel does this fire have left? It's barely staying alight. I stay alive for my family and friends, yet I am drifting away from them slowly. This dread follows me, and I can't shut it out. So that gives you an idea of what he was going through, battling this his brain that wasn't functioning properly. It's so powerful, CTE.
Quite often I sit and think about Nick, and I think how lonely he must have been on that night that he took his life, that he wasn't there, didn't have family around him to comfort him. And that really eats at me quite a lot.
And I'd like the AFL to know what it was like the day we found him. No one can put that into words, but after we found him, we just laid with him and cried because we couldn't let him go. And I don't think they understand what that's like for a parent. And then the last day that you see them in the viewing and you just think... Your boy's going to go in the ground and this is your last time to see him, and you just... We couldn't let go of his hands.
In light of Nick's death, what's your message to the AFL?
Let's stop this evading and saying that you haven't got the findings, and we're well past that. Everybody knows what causes CTE. Take accountability. Come and walk in our shoes for a day.
If this program has raised concerns for you, there is help available. You can call Lifeline on 13 11 14, Beyond Blue on 1300 22 46 36, or 13 Yarn on 13 92 76.